John D. Rockefeller. Man, what a character. For the first half of his life, he was building Standard Oil into this massive, terrifying monopoly. And in the process, he became probably the most hated man in America. But then, in the second half of his life, he just starts giving it all away, trying to become the country's most beloved figure. It's this wild paradox, right? The ruthless tycoon on one hand, the groundbreaking philanthropist on the other. And you know what? That contradiction, it basically created the template, the playbook, for how wealth and power work in the modern world. And if you want to understand our world today, you have to understand his playbook.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter. It's the big question we're tackling in this explainer. Can you really wash away the damage done to build a fortune just by giving a lot of it away? I mean, this question has been hanging over our heads for a century, from the Gilded Age robber barons all the way to today's tech billionaires. And the answer? Well, it's not as simple as you might think.
See, what Rockefeller figured out, and what so many others have copied since, wasn't just about charity. It's a full-on strategic playbook for laundering a questionable legacy. It's a method for completely transforming your public image. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to break down exactly how that playbook works, step by step.
All right, so Act 1, you got to build the empire. And when you look back at history, this part often involves, well, let's call them destructive means. The whole point is to create this incredible machine that just churns out unbelievable amounts of wealth, and that often means you have to bend or completely break the rules. You know, this quote from Andrew Carnegie, who was right there in the thick of it with Rockefeller, it just perfectly captures how these guys thought. They didn't see it as greed. No, they framed it as just playing by the irresistible laws of economics. This was their justification, their version of manifest destiny, but for corporations. And that was the logic that fueled Standard Oil's complete takeover of an entire industry.
Okay, let's fast forward about a century. The game looks different, but the strategy? It's pretty much the same. Instead of oil rigs, Michael Milken built his machine on Wall Street in the 1980s. He's the guy who pioneered these super high-risk junk bonds to power this wave of hostile corporate takeovers. And in the process, he built this powerful insider trading ring that completely changed the rules of the game.
And sometimes, that machine isn't built on finance, it's built on marketing. Take the Sackler family and their company, Purdue Pharma. They launched this absolutely relentless marketing blitz for Oxycontin. I mean, they went after doctors hard with a message that we now know was incredibly misleading, that the super powerful opioid wasn't really addictive. And that blitz, it helped light the fuse on a massive public health crisis.
Or hey, sometimes the machine is just a ridiculously efficient store that sells things cheap. Sam Walton's Walmart gave shoppers a great deal, no doubt about it. But as it grew and grew, that efficiency became this unstoppable force that just steamrolled the competition, hollowing out countless small-town businesses that used to be the heart of Main Street America.
But here's the thing. Every machine, no matter how powerful, eventually runs into some friction. For Rockefeller, it was a journalist named Ida Tarbell who exposed his tactics, and then the government stepped in and broke up his company. For others, it's a Senate investigation or a massive public crisis. There's always a tipping point, a moment when the story turns. That's the reckoning. It's when the empire suddenly has to fight for its life, not in the market, but in the court of public opinion.
And this slide just lays out the central conflict perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the pretty public face of the fortune. New museum wings, big donations to universities, funding for incredible medical research. But on the other side, you've got the hidden cost of how that money was made. Addiction, market manipulation, deep, angry political divides.
So when that reckoning hits, it forces a pivot, a change in strategy. For Charles and David Koch, that moment was a Senate investigation into their business. It basically pushed them to convert their financial power into political power. They went from being on the fringe to being huge players in the Republican Party, almost as a form of self-defense for their corporation.
And often, all that public anger gets focused on a single moment. When a prosecutor used these words to describe Richard Sackler in a deposition, it just crystallized what so many people were feeling. That the family just didn't seem to care about the suffering their product caused. It's that feeling of indifference that really pours gasoline on the fire of public outrage. So you're facing this huge public backlash. What do? Well, the next move isn't just saying you're sorry. It's time to pull out the playbook. And this is where we come full circle, right back to the guy who invented it, John D. Rockefeller. He decided to give his fortune away with the exact same ruthless, strategic focus he used to make it in the first place.
Okay, so the playbook he pioneered has 4 key steps. 1, you just got to weather the initial storm, hunker down. 2, you start giving, but strategically. Think of Rockefeller funding the effort to wipe out hookworm in the South. It was great charity, sure, but it was also a huge, visible win that, by the way, also created a healthier workforce for industries down there. 3, you capture the institutions. He founded the University of Chicago, creating a whole new center of influence that would carry his name and ideas forward. And finally, 4, you use all that good stuff to rewrite the narrative and transform yourself from a villain into a hero.
Now, if you want to see step 3, capture the institutions, in action today, just look at the Koch network. This isn't about one-off donations. It's about funding an entire ecosystem. You got think tanks like the Cato Institute pumping out academic research. You have the Heritage Foundation turning that research into actual policies. And then you have groups like Americans for Prosperity taking those policies to the streets. It's a full-spectrum strategy designed to shape how everyone thinks, from the top all the way down.
And for step 4, rewrite the narrative, look no further than Michael Milken. After he was indicted for fraud, he didn't just go away quietly. Oh no, he hired this high-powered PR team that was famous for its aggressive political-style attack ads, and their whole job was to completely rebrand him, to change his public image from corporate raider to misunderstood financial visionary.
And the scale of this stuff can be just mind-blowing. The Pope family, who are allies of the Kochs, poured over $60 million into building a conservative infrastructure in just one state, North Carolina. This wasn't just random charity work. It was a highly targeted investment designed to push the entire political landscape of that state from the center-left over to the center-right.
Now, think about the return on that investment. Back in 1980, David Koch himself actually ran for vice president on the Libertarian ticket. You know how much of the vote they got? 1%. Just 1. Their ideas were considered totally fringe. But after decades of playing the long game, investing tens of millions in institutions and narratives, that 1% ideology became a dominant force in American politics. That's the playbook in action. So what's the end game here? What's the ultimate goal of this whole long process? Well, it's about getting something that's much more permanent than just money. It's about securing a totally different and much more durable kind of power.
And this gets us to the absolute core of the playbook. At the end of the day, it's not really about being a better person. It's about conversion. It's like alchemy. You're taking money, which can be unstable and make people hate you, and you're transforming it into social capital, political influence, and ideological control. And those are forms of power that can last for generations.
Today, you can see this playbook being adapted and updated all over the place by a new generation of titans. They just wield different currencies of power. You have the pure financial capital of someone like Warren Buffett, the political capital of the Kochs, the media capital that Roger Ailes built at Fox News, or the absolutely massive information capital that Mark Zuckerberg controls. Each one is using their own unique resources to shape the world in their image.
Which leaves us with one final big question that just kind of hangs in the air. Following this playbook that Rockefeller laid out over 100 years ago, today's billionaires are curing diseases, funding schools, and shaping our world in ways we can't even count. But when these giants give back so much, we're still left asking the exact same question that Rockefeller's life forced us to ask: who really benefits from all that generosity?